Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Shadowverse. So today is actually Saturday the 10th of April. My insomnia yesterday just did not line up. I'm still getting to a point where around 10 to noon is about the time where I'm just about to fall asleep, and so I basically rolled over and went to sleep yesterday instead of streaming, and by the time I woke up it was past midnight. So on Friday. It's kind of not the worst day ever to miss a stream. And certainly I could make up excuses and blame my internet service provider, but that wasn't really the case this time. But yeah, I just kind of rolled over and went to sleep. So we're catching up today, which is fine. Now in the accountability section, in those off hours between like midnight and 5 in the morning, I have been successfully... Ooh, this is a nice card back. Although I don't think I'd use it very much. I have been pre-recording footage for... with Pinball Arcade, and I haven't been doing any scheduling. I didn't even bother to really work in the past couple days on the Circuit Playground Express project that I've been working on as a side concept. So what I was playing was, I think last time we streamed we covered everything up to Star Trek The Next Generation, and so Star Trek The Next Generation is the table to talk about. In my book, as I'm playing through all the tables being curated and emulated, let's see, we need just victories today, Forcecraft or Runecraft victories. But in my book, I feel like Star Trek The Next Generation is the best pinball table ever. Like, I could be proven wrong later, certainly if I did find some other table. And I think my opinion there also with every year is becoming less likely to be accurate, as I've been out of the game, so to say, for a very long time as far as looking at new pinball tables. It's practically impossible to really see new pinball tables as they're being made and just put out to collectors pretty much, instead of being put in arcades. And it's hardly a point in time where arcades really exist, or where I personally at my age would be hanging around an arcade. Almost certainly I potentially could be asked to leave / arrested if I hung out at an arcade. These days, I'm that old. I would have to rent a kid, basically, to pretend to be my child, so that I could pretend like, oh yeah, that's the reason why I'm here. Either that, or I find an arcade that is more of a barcade, which are becoming more common than arcades even, and then show up at the barcade past a certain point when kids are no longer allowed. Which that is an interesting way to flip that idea on the head, is that the curfews or age limits for barcades aren't there just to get rid of kids as much as they are to protect single adults. So yeah, the thing about Star Trek The Next Generation is it's got a great theme. I'm a pretty big fan of Star Trek. I always say I'm a bigger fan of Babylon 5, but it would be really weird if there was a Babylon 5 pinball table. It'd be really cool, but it would be fairly weird. And I need to open all of these packs now before I do a take two, which is what I plan on doing today. Since we've got a lot of take two tickets and I forgot about them even existing or that we were collecting those. There are a lot of tables that have different things you're supposed to do, whether it's light extra ball, light multi-ball, do a specific mission, aim for specific targets. Lots of tables like that, but only Star Trek Next Generation really gets down to calling them missions and making them obvious that they are missions. There are 8 missions on the table, and you have to do the 7 first, and then you can do the 8th. And at the very beginning of each ball, you can start a mission, which means you start potentially a random mission that puts you in a very different goal in a very different position. There's a lot of toys on Star Trek The Next Generation. There are 2 launchers that are interesting gimmicks. There's a lot of good angled shots. It's very hard to just accidentally drain out on the ball. It's really, in my opinion, the closest to a perfect table as possible. Forcecraft or Runecraft? I think I want to go with Forcecraft Take 2 if I can. Although I shouldn't be playing Take 2. Instead, I should be doing this instead. But I already said I was going to, so let's do it. Take 2. Use a ticket. Well, can't be Forcecraft or Runecraft, so let's go with Portalcraft.
Transcend nature.
Now, if I remember correctly, on Take 2, you keep these cards, right? I guess it kind of doesn't matter one way or the other. You want the best cards you can get. So, yeah. As much as I love Star Trek The Next Generation, it also highlights issues, certainly, with... These aren't all brand new cards. The Twilight Zone, which I would argue is probably the 3rd best table. Now, a lot of people would disagree and say Twilight Zone is the best table ever. But Twilight Zone has a little bit of a worse designed table. It's a little bit easier to drain the balls out. It's not as obvious how to start a mission. It's not clearly depicted whether doing all the missions on the Twilight Zone really accomplishes anything. There is a level of... I'm looking really just to take new cards, I guess, more than anything. But yeah, the Twilight Zone, well, a very good game. Still putting it in 3rd. And the only reason I put it in 3rd is because it makes references to Funhouse. There are sound effects specifically from the game Funhouse that you have to hear first before it even becomes understandable what's going on in as to why that sound effect would be the in-joke that of the table. So it goes Star Trek The Next Generation in my book, then Funhouse, then Twilight Zone. And both Funhouse and Twilight Zone, arguably, I could only play about half as long as Star Trek The Next Generation, because Star Trek The Next Generation is basically a almost completely different game depending on which mission you start. Also, Star Trek The Next Generation actually has video modes where basically no other table that I've seen so far in 1992-93 era timelines, none of those seem to have bothered to put any kind of video modes into their tables. They do have LCD screens, but they've not done anything with them that's interactive where you have to look up from the table. They are instead simply designed so that I may have made a mistake here, and take 2 may be the one where you don't keep the cards, and I should have done take 6. We'll see. We'll see how many duplicate cards I end up having when we go look at the cards. Again, at most there should be 18, 8, 16, 24 extras if we don't get any from the take 2. So if there's more than 24, then we do know we got something. So yeah, I played Star Trek The Next Generation. I highly recommend it. It would be the table that I would want to own, I think, more than anything. After that was a game called Teed Off that several years later was the idea was stolen, and No Good Gophers was made instead. And No Good Gophers is way better than Teed Off is. Teed Off is a golf theme table based off of loosely the idea of Caddyshack, but not licensed for Caddyshack. So if it had been a Caddyshack game, it probably would have sold a little bit better. But in the end, it was not particularly a great table because it had a very limited number of shots and pretty poor design. When you're putting like a red ramp that hides all of the pop-up bumpers on the table, and you lock the pop-up bumpers behind a gated area that only a captive ball can hit, you're doing some pretty weird table design. The biggest gimmick around Teed Off is that there is a roulette wheel under the table that has a separate pinballs that spins around, and you're trying to spell the word gopher, and that's really all there is to it. There's barely any modes and barely anything to do with that. After playing Teed Off, that's when I played Twilight Zone. Twilight Zone does have a couple good gimmicks in it, on top of just being a very good license, in that it has a ceramic power ball that I feel like in the real world was a little bit heavier than a regular pinball, but in the simulation it plays exactly like a regular pinball, so I feel like that's been mis-emulated, or maybe my memory is messed up. And then there's these magnetic flingers in a real small upper play field where it doesn't have any flippers at all. You have to push the flipper button to activate these magnetic flingers, for lack of a better term, that just magnetically shoot the ball all around in directions. But other than the gumball machine that is a toy that looks like a gumball machine that has the Powerball in it, there kind of is not a lot going on with the Twilight Zone. It has this mechanical toy clock that winds the coils around, but it doesn't really mean anything else other than that. Let's go ahead and hit this. And Twilight Zone just doesn't have a distinct mode or anything. I could see potentially making a remake of Twilight Zone and moving every part of the table around and moving all the angles and the ramps, because they are tight, difficult shots. The table makes several references to things in the intro of the Twilight Zone and the and episodes of the Twilight Zone. There's plenty of other Twilight Zone episodes that also could have been mentioned. Although, arguably, there's kind of there could have been different references to different episodes, but let's go ahead and play this.
Whoa, so there never was a mystery?
Hands up!
Hit that. They're trying to do, they made that reboot of the Twilight Zone, so like there's room for potentially trying to do a new Twilight Zone TV show and then maybe bringing back the relevancy, but without Rod Sterling you're kind of stuck. What I would like to do is see if you could actually deep fake Rod Sterling at this point, with a new actor, and then have a lot of the episodes reacted, redone, maybe modernized, just to remake all the Twilight Zone episodes, because you're talking about a very old series there that's in black and white, and the only time it gets aired is on like 4th of July on the Sci-Fi Channel, so they're not getting a lot from it. They're getting DVD sales, and that's pretty much it.
Coming at you.
Let's evolve this.
Data uplink complete.
Interesting. And so then we would want to hit this,
I'll vanish with the
and then this. And play this,
System interface subroutine.
and then hit that.
Did I overreach myself?
And after playing Twilight Zone, then I played a table. What did I play? Called Whitewater, which is, it feels like it's slightly based off the idea of the Legend of Curly's Gold, but otherwise it's just a nautical water themed canoeing table. It's a little too easy of a table. It's a little age inappropriate because the main goal is to end up at Wet Willie's, which I guess maybe in 1993 meant something less dirty than it means to me now. But let's, I guess, unless we want to evolve this and hit this, which we might as well do.
There's hope for me yet.
The Whitewater again has just two very difficult shots and some fairly late game difficult jackpots to get. There's a mechanical Bigfoot on the table that barely looks like a Bigfoot, and its head just spins around in circles. I don't think it actually looks in any particular direction like Party Dudes did. So yeah, it was a fine table. There's weirdness certainly going from one of the best tables like Twilight Zone to an average table. You have to reevaluate and reassess just how good you feel like those tables are on the average, and not just say, well, this is way worse than Twilight Zone, or this is way worse than Star Trek The Next Generation, because that would lead to an unfair comparison. And I'm not sure I played any other tables, so Yeah, over the course of one day, I can do 4 1-hour episodes, which, yeah, that's not good output, per se, at all. We could play this, or we could do something here. Discard and draw a card. Heal. I think we want to probably do this. Storm, deal 2, rush, drain, Bane ward. I think that works well for us. I really don't have too many tables left for Pinball Arcade. They don't have a 2010s era section, and they only have 9 tables in the 2000 era section. So they've pretty much, after losing all the licenses, not really been able to maintain much. Every now and then, I wouldn't be surprised if they do add a single table here or there, but that's it. And for new players, going to Pinball Arcade makes no sense at all. What would be crazy would be if I specifically started playing Pinball FX3 after this point. Do that. Because that would just be so much extra work to play more tables and more pinball. That just wouldn't make a lot of sense at all. So what I probably will do is just spotlight the general collection of Pinball FX3. That'll probably be fairly easy to do also, because I haven't really bought any tables for Pinball FX3, and knowing that they're going to reboot everything, that's probably a good thing. But I am setting myself up potentially to rebuy the exact same tables a second time when the Pinball FX reboot happens at some point. And I don't know if that's really the best way to spend the budget. Alright. Pop it in your hand.
All units converge. Commencing mission.
Do this. Yeah, I guess I don't have anything else to talk about, so also I'm probably gonna get really tired really fast at some point, so we should just go through the video game news, and then this should get us back on track. It'll be interesting to see if the Saturday stream actually does get me more views than an average Friday stream, but I don't know if I could consistently stream like this.
Damage to unit confirmed.
But yeah.
Feeling better? Then come and chat with me.
So we've got our standard collection of garbage, like Breedley's Grandma Race here for $7.99. Let's see.
Check it out. Fully automated arms.
Okay. Hit this,
Don't think this is over.
and then hit this,
You're not half bad yourself.
and then end the turn. They're about to run out of cards before I am. but that doesn't really mean anything either. There's ways to get around this. Here we have a game called Dangerous Chris, which is $1.19 English only with a third-party EULA. Nothing there. Here we have Puzzle Dazzle 3D, which looks like a Tetris game. That Pac-Man 2099 has caught my attention a little bit. I don't have a Switch, let alone the Nintendo Online service, but if I did, I probably would be playing it right now. But I guess the last thing I need is more distractions. Here we have a game called //2D Today, which seems to be some kind of Western visual novel. Let's see. It's free, English only. So I guess just check it out if it interests you. Seems like it's probably a little bit LGBT plus focused. I kind of like the pastel color scheme. Is that how you pronounce that word? I haven't said it out loud in a while. Let's see. Bane and Ward. And then Bane and Ward. And then discard and draw a card. To add more cards that way.
It can't end like this.
You need more energy.
Let's see. Open Critic, which I'm not getting a lot of bits of news from Open Critic these days. They're just not putting out much information. They have a release date of July 27th for the PS4 and Switch for Neo, The World Ends With You. And then the Epic Games Store in the summer. G4 has announced that they're going to add Golden Boy FT Win, which is apparently a professional esports host or caster, to their lineup, which, okay. Like, that's kind of what they had to do, is introduce new characters, new people. Now, I guess the question would be, should they have introduced these new characters when G4 actually fully started, or should they have introduced the new characters later, before that point? I've realized I opened up a lot of redundant tabs here that we've already talked about, so that leaves me in a better position. Play this.
Is paramount to order.
And then this.
I do not know what wins
This. And I guess this.
You can still eat, right? You need more energy.
We have a game on Steam here called The Moon 2050, which looks like it's an assortment of several different gameplay mechanics, none of which look particularly great. Early access for 11/16. That adult game Subverse that that there was a lot of talk about has come out in kind of an early access way, and I watched a YouTuber who funded it and give his feedback. And like most adult games, it is seemingly a game that has very few adult scenes and very few adult gameplay mechanics. That's pretty much the way it goes for half adult games, half of all adult games, because unless you've got a publisher that is something like Pornhub backing you, which that would actually be Nutaku, then you're always going to have in the back of your head the mind set that maybe you could edit out the porn and sell it as a regular game, or maybe you would be forced to do that. Let's see.
Destroy the world artifacts. Just as well.
That. And then
Cruelty begets cruelty.
hit that. And then
It'll all vanish like smoke in the night.
go ahead and heal myself up. It's probably about the best thing I can do.
Still eat, right? You need more energy.
So yeah, it doesn't seem like Subverse is really that good, which I'm not super surprised. If anything, from what I could see, which was the non-adult stuff on this YouTube video, I'd say Subverse feels a lot more like Tripping the Rift or Lex, to name two comedic styled adult cartoon shows, although Lex is not a cartoon show. Lex was live action. I think Lex probably is where something like Subverse should look towards, is in the fact that while Lex often tried to sell itself on titillation and sex, it was being held back by actually trying to get something broadcasted, so a significant portion of all of its content was just like bad B-movie sci-fi, and that kind of fed into itself to make an interesting story, or a slightly interesting story.
I don't know what winds whisked me here. It'll all vanish like smoke in the night.
If I can just keep myself alive long enough.
One step at a time. I can do
That
this.
is the big if, though.
I'm fine by myself.
Do you like that?
Here we have a game on Steam called The Moon 2050. No, wait, we already talked about this one, didn't we? Oops. See, I'm starting to go, it's starting to slip. Starting to get sleepy already. Here we have a game called Fill and Cross Magic Journey. This is just pictograms for $2.99 English and Russian. Yep, nothing special there. Here we have a game called Roads of Time 2 Odyssey. This is just a resource management game for $2.99.
Vanish with the smoke.
Here we have a game called Before Your Eyes,
Maybe this time
which
completely.
they're calling it a narrative journey. It's from Skybound Games as a publisher, which I feel like they've published some other things. $9.99, third-party EULA, English full audio. Let's look at what Skybound has also published. Well, they claim to own the Walking Dead series from Telltale Games because they acquired that. But notice I don't have the definitive series season, or the definitive whatever. Let's see, Ultimate Steam Bundle. Thieves of Thieves. So I thought they had done more. The definitive series. So you get slightly different visuals if you get the definitive series, but not really enough to justify wanting to go back and play the game. I feel like it's also worth pointing out that there is, let's see if we can get a screenshot of the last season that I just covered. We'll talk about it in a second. Let me not wreck myself.
I do not know what winds whisked me here.
Alright.
Oh, guinea pigs, where are you?
Do you like that?
This is grave.
There we go. I lost. Alright, well, over here, if we look at the video, and let's find a point where we can pause it here. So the way she looks here is actually oddly younger and closer to what happens, what she looks like in season 3. And the season 4 of it doesn't really connect well at all. Not as well as you'd like. And see, most of these screenshots are, well, maybe I'm talking about season 2. Seeing all these characters here, completely forgotten. Forgot about him completely. This guy he was the character in season 3, and that's what I'm trying to say, is that she just does not, first of all, she isn't the main character of season 3. And here you can see for the artwork that they've redrawn a lot of stuff, which is great and all, but it doesn't really, I think, fix enough things that you'd want to go back and play it. Like, ironically, had I played The Walking Dead, the entire series from day one, I probably would have had enough of a buffer time to think about going back and playing the definitive series. But because I saved some money and played it later, it really makes no sense now to potentially go back and do that. So, alright, moving on, we have a game called Second Sight, which looks like an old game, and it is from 2005, so
Activate.
even by 2005's era, this is probably not the best quality game. $9.99, bunch of languages. It is being re-released by THQ Nordic. I'm going to put this on the follow list. I think this might be one of those first generation, second generation, or even third generation first person shooters that probably won't be that good. It feels a lot like the game Geist, but I don't think this is a rebranding of the game Geist, which I don't think that ever came to PC. I wouldn't be surprised if it did at some point, though. It's kind of funny that THQ Nordic would just put out a game and not really announce it. That seems like something that they're dropping the ball on. Even for their big games, they don't put enough into the advertising budget.
My place is on the front line.
Here we have a game called Space Slurpees, with these little worm-like creatures in VR. Yeah, that doesn't look particularly visually appealing to have floating low polygon worms. $5.94, English full audio and several other languages.
One keeping servant coming. You need more energy.
Here we have a game on Steam called The Ink Slinger, which feels like this is a fully
Stronger than I am now.
text-based game. It's $4.49 English full audio. Now, arguably, full audio probably doesn't mean that every single line of dialogue is voiced. I'm gonna put this on the follow list and give it a chance. It does say a voice begins to speak to you in recurring daydreams, but I wouldn't be surprised if that is not voiced either.
You can still eat, right? You need more energy.
Let's see. Here we have Potion Party. We may have already covered this one. It is a cook serve delicious style game for $9.99. Bunch of languages.
Time to pay the piper.
Oh, waffle cakes.
Here we have a game called What the Dub, which looks like a party game with seemingly open source videos or public domain videos. Yeah. Yeah, I don't feel like there's enough of a game here that I could play. It's not single player. Plus, I feel like this is probably something that would make more sense to sell as a DVD or Blu-ray in a board game aisle than it makes sense to have it be its own, have it compete amongst real games in the video game realm. And arguably these kinds of party games probably aren't even really worth owning when you compare it to something like apples to apples that you can play over and over again. This is going to run out of being very good quality as soon as you've seen most of the clips. Even 50% of the clips would probably be too much, and there doesn't really feel like there is enough of a concept around the game anyways, just filling in the explicitly removed dialogue. Do this. Play this. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Battle for the Sea 3D. This is just Battleship. Doesn't look terrible for Battleship. $5.99 though is really high price to play Battleship. Far too expensive. Here we have a game called Color Pixel Heroes, which seems to just be a pixel graphics characters that you color in. It's $1.59 English only. Yeah. Paint by number game. Let's go and play this. Go and play this. And I'll take that one out.
I won't lose next time.
See, next we have a game called First Feudal, which looks like a simulation game of no interest. $19.99, several languages. Yep. One thing I am noticing as I'm playing more pinball tables is is that there are definitely some tables where I am just not particularly interested in saying too much, and I just want to play some more. Which that's not super surprising, because there definitely are some tables out there that are just really good. And after playing, say, Star Trek The Next Generation for 40 minutes, you don't really have a lot to say that's new. You just kind of get down to trying to accomplish the shots. Here we have a game on Steam called Astro Dogs, which this feels like a lot like Star Fox clone. And I've been interested in the idea of potentially seeing a Star Fox clone. It's frankly surprising we haven't seen more of this as an idea. Because we know Nintendo games aren't ever coming to PC at this rate. This is $11.69, English full audio. Definitely deserves a follow. Does that mean it's actually going to play well? Not guaranteed. What's interesting, I would say, about a Star Fox clone in particular is it's not like there's that much competition there. The Star Fox games don't have the most detailed storyline. They're not that particularly unique in any kind of programming or gameplay loop. It was just something that other people would have had to copy, and a lot of people just chose not to put in the effort to copy that. Which arguably probably implies that Star Fox 64 didn't really succeed as well as it feels like they would have.
All units converge. Commencing mission.
Alright. Let's do this.
Coming at you. Data uplink complete.
And
Eliminating target.
hit that.
I'm fine by
And hit
myself.
that.
Time to retreat.
How did that evolve? Oh, these can evolve for 0 points. Interesting.
I need more fear, more terror.
We've seen this game before, but it may be out now. Scarlet Hood in the Wicked Wood, which we've been trying to decide if there's an actual game here
Unit confirmed.
or not. I kind of feel like this game had already come out and I'd put it on the fall list, and maybe they delisted it and relisted it.
We won't give him an inch.
Well, I guess we'll put it on the fall list and we'll see what happens. They want 1274, which is fairly high. English full audio. It does feel like it could very well just be a puzzle game. They have it half labeled as a visual novel. I'd say it's probably closer to an adventure game. Alright, let's do this again.
Converge. Commencing mission.
And then evolve again.
Now the fight begins. Data uplink complete.
And
Eliminating target. Time to retreat.
basically gonna get wrecked. Oh man, I could have played this too. This would have potentially won the game for me, or at least saved me a little bit. Here we have a game on Steam called Dragon's Bane. This just looks like an ugly RPG game for $5.99 early access. Here we have a game called Classified Stories: The Tomb of Micra. I assume that's how you pronounce that word. And see, I half suspect that this is just an asset flip game, but it might actually be something like an attempt at a modern Alone in the Dark type experience, or even Resident Evil type experience. Yeah, $7.99 English only. I'm gonna put this on the follow list, but I also want to look at this developer and see if there are other classified stories that exist. Well, I've purchased Crystal of Times from them at some point, and the only other game they have here is Izera Defense, which is a tower defense game. So, here we have a game called Room Facing, which feels like it should be Room Fencing more than anything else. 2-player VR game, early access, free to play. I guess the price is right. English and Chinese. Definitely doesn't look quality. Here we have a game on Steam called Bullet Dodge, which
Activate.
I haven't seen a physics bullet dodging game in a while or anything close to that. But yeah, this doesn't look like it's enough polish to be interesting. It kind of looks like a bad attempt at a player versus player Smash Brothers with guns. Free to play single player with online PvP, third party account, third party EULA. It's fairly highly demanding. Yeah, I had to take out my battery backup from my server because it was such a low voltage, low wattage battery backup. It was just failing constantly at this point. So that's not a huge problem. I just plugged it into my third monitor, but it does highlight that I need to probably buy something that is like a 1200 volt amp battery backup, ideally rack mounted, to get my servers actually protected. There is a thing called switched power distribution units, and part of the problem of my two servers is that they all boot up when the power comes back on after a blackout at the exact same time, and it would be potentially better if that didn't happen. And then instead it just slowly turned on one outlet, then the next outlet, then the next outlet. But I don't know if there really is any kind of Linux server run software that would even control a switched power distribution unit properly to stagger it up. And ideally you wouldn't want to have to use any kind of software at all. You would want it to simply have internal programming to say turn on this thing after a certain number of seconds. And Adafruit may have a better solution there, because they do have power strips that can be controlled to turn on and turn off the outlets. So maybe it would be way cheaper just to buy 2 of those and then control those with some microcontroller. Okay.
Do you like that?
Let's go ahead and hit that. So that's a different thought too. Although arguably I don't need a switch power distribution unit at all. I just need that really big battery backup, and then that will fix the problem anyways, because it really is just a weird thing. There's also some software settings that I will eventually attempt to not have all the hard drives spin up at the very beginning of a boot, and that alone may be the thing that fixes everything. But that would require doing anything on that aspect is going to require me having extra free time, and I'm just not spending any free time that I decide to have on that at the moment. It is a very, very big project, though, to have the servers and then have them not work. It's ridiculous. It's too big of a project to not, in some level, have working.
This toasty posty will warm your heart.
This isn't video game related, but there was someone who tried to actually bomb one of the Amazon warehouse services server data centers, and either he thought that would take out 70% of the internet, or people are exaggerating a little bit and saying that would take out 70% of the internet. But it probably would have taken out, if it had succeeded, some percentage of the internet that would be a lot higher than you would suspect. So
I am such a genius.
yeah. Let's go ahead and evolve this.
The design fault lies with you. I am such a genius.
Another successful delivery. Guess
I
I'll
am
wither and
such
die.
a genius.
There we go.
You need more energy.
Here we have a game on Steam called Siege of Avalon Anthology, which seems to be maybe a collection of really old games merged together, RPGs. But the problem here is I've never heard of Siege of Avalon. This is $7.99, a bunch of languages. So even if this was a fairly well received game, yeah. So this is like a 20-year-old game that's also open source. I just don't see a reason where I would play this. This just doesn't feel like this is historically relevant enough. It feels like a Diablo clone, but almost certainly I could find a better Diablo clone and something with controller support, which this won't have. But I guess I'll put it on the follow list. Just to be careful. Let's do that. Alright. Now what? Evolve that. That does nothing. Evolve that. That does nothing. Evolve that. That doesn't work.
You can still eat, right?
Hit that. I suppose. And then hit that, I suppose.
You need more energy.
Next, we have a game on Steam here called Becoming, which is a full motion video looking game. But almost feels like it's centered around just photos. And I'm not sure that these are real photos even. These might just be art. Yeah, I don't think that there's enough quality looking at this visual novel style game. $1.99 English only. Yeah, I don't think that there's enough there to interest me. Yeah, we have a game called Memento Vivere, which looks like an RPG Maker game. Looks like one of the games that probably has some adult patch somewhere. $5.99, and then $2.69 for a guide, which that's an interesting idea. English only. Yep, I don't see enough there. Next, we have a game on Steam here called The Kingslayer, The First Assassin, which seems to be some kind of tile-based puzzle game. 69 cents English only. It seems like it's probably cheap enough to consider, but is there enough of a puzzle game here to interest me? I don't think there is. No. Even at 69 cents. It just looks a little too dull. Just gonna play this. And then this.
I am such a
Get
genius.
that. And then get
Why would
that.
I laugh?
So
And then
that's
that.
how you use it.
You can still
And
eat,
then hit
right?
that.
All the fluffy hugs.
You need more energy.
It's a good thing I didn't decide to just completely skip streaming, because if I had left all these games over for Monday, it would be a pretty bad, pretty long stream. Not that this is going to be particularly short. Here we have a game called First Class Trouble, which seems to me like it's almost in like a BioShock type space world, but then it's a werewolf social deduction type game. Kind of Clue on a spaceship, or Among Us with better graphics and maybe a little bit more to do. Let's see, $11.99, but it's online PvP only. I suspect you may see a lot of people playing this game in the next few weeks, but yeah, I can't play it. Plus, it wouldn't really do much. Can we activate resonance some more? Or do we want to do this? Hit that. And then hit that. And then do we want to evolve anything? And if I evolve this,
the fight begins.
I'll add this to my shot. So
then
that's
I'll
how you
hit
use
that.
You can still eat,
I
right?
can hit that.
You need more energy.
Next we have a game called Viking Vengeance, which looks like it's a hack and slash game. It does have enough polish to deserve a follow. It is mostly positive. $17.99 is fairly expensive. I feel like this could be kind of boring. A Viking themed, maybe Diablo-esque type game. Hack and slasher. Which arguably I don't really feel like Diablo really was a hack and slasher as much as it was a clicker, if anything.
Someone call tech support.
Here we have a game called Across the Obelisk, which this definitely just seems like it is a deck building, card focused RPG. It has a decent enough polish though to deserve a follow. $15.29. All of a sudden we're starting to see decent games when we've been for the past 3 weeks seeing nothing but garbage games. I'm confused by that. Alright, that. And then that.
You
And the turn. Here we have a game called Traffic Jams, which looks like it's a VR game. where you act as maybe a signal man. Yeah, directing people in an intersection. Which is an interesting idea, certainly for a VR game where you'd have to stand in one place and move your hands around. That is a different kind of idea that takes the limitations of hand gestures and hand recognition and does something new with it. But the idea that there would be a whole generation of traffic guiding games in VR is laughable. There's a bunch of language support for this game. So while it may be a decent gimmick game for one instance, it doesn't really expand adaptation to VR.
Beauty. You're a sleepy little flower, aren't you?
Did I overreach myself?
Okay. If we do this, or we do this.
All units converge. Commencing mission.
And when we do this, this
Data uplink.
energizes everybody,
Eliminating target.
so we can do that. Let's go ahead and play that too. Next, we have a game on Steam called Graviteer, which is a physics gravity-based game where you're trying to fling yourself. Yeah,
Damage
I
to
don't
unit
really like that
confirmed.
concept enough that I think I'd want to play a game like that. Not until you get to something like Mario Galaxy and do a lot more with it. It's $6.39, English full audio, bunch of other languages. We have a TechRaptor article, Spellbreak Season 2 release notes have been
Damage to
revealed.
unit confirmed. Damage
If
to
you're
unit
interested in
confirmed.
that.
Damage to unit confirmed.
Let's see. Hit this.
Town eats good folk for this town eats good folk for breakfast.
And then
Hands up!
hit that.
Activating
Play
system
that.
interface subroutine.
Play that.
Hands up!
Let's go ahead and take that character out.
You're right as rain now.
See, next we have a game on Steam called Little Octopus, which looks like it's just a infinite, well, you'd almost call it a pinball game, or platformer. Yeah, it's cute, but it's not really doing anything new. $4.99 English only. That's not
There is no escape
expensive
from the
enough.
apocalypse to come.
I mean, that's too expensive. Here we have a game called Times Infinity, which seems to be a random assortment of garbage. Trying to be maybe a visual novel, but going from 2D to 3D to just random everything. $1.39 English only. Alright.
Judgment
Do
is
that.
paramount to order.
Will be back.
There was a massive amount of damage, but maybe not as much as I could have gotten.
How meaningless. What?
Let's
It
see.
seems I've been
Well, we got a victory, which even getting one victory in an hour and 10 minutes lately would be a bit of a success. And so that moves us up the reward tier. See, TechRaptor has an article. Friday Night Funking is getting a polymod support soon. Which was polymod. Polymod theoretically enables you to replace any asset in the game with whatever you want and allows you to mix and match mods as you see fit. It's an interesting idea, certainly. It would be very nice if it turned out that there was a way to specifically take characters or mods from other games and character designs from other creators. But I'm not sure I really believe that that's really how it's gonna go. That, and that. Yeah, TechRaptor has a review for Scarlet Hood and the Wicked Wood. Which, let's see what they have to say. There's definitely different screenshots here than what they have on their Steam page. They give it a 7.0. Scarlet Hood and the Wicked Wood is a fun and quirky retelling of storybook faves packaged nicely in an adventure game. There are multiple paths you can take. Here, I need to actually play. To get to your goal, and supposedly multiple endings too. So if you can get past the odd mouse/keyboard controls and the occasional rage-inducing puzzle, it's a steal. Pros are colorful art and cast of characters, unique fighting system in quotes, and multiple endings and ways to get there. Cons are wonky keyboard and mouse controls, which could be fixed, and some puzzles can be really frustrating, which could be fixed. No guarantee they will be fixed, but could be. Let's see. Start with that. Here we have a game called The Mermaid of Zinner, which looks like a visual novel, probably a Western one if I was to guess by the art style. $4.49, English and German. Interesting. We haven't seen too many German visual novels. In fact, this may be the very first one. It might explain the clothing, though, the sweaters and the dark clothes. Would Germans be particularly good at writing visual novels? They tend not to have much of a sense of humor, so that probably would hurt in a lot of styles of storytelling to most people, except for maybe non-German, other Germans who might find that acceptable. But also, I'm generalizing quite a bit there. I guess the other thing here would be to think if there's something that they would do better in this story. What's interesting here is it's a dark visual novel about a young girl's destructive obsession with her older brother, which if a Japanese author made a visual novel about a girl being obsessed with her older brother, that would just turn into a porno, because they're all for that, and it's never depicted as a bad thing. I guess the real question would be, what's this developer otherwise done? Very positive, mostly positive. Well, these stories don't look bad. They don't jump out as things I've recognized in the past, but Yeah, we're gonna put this on the follow list then. If the developers made other visual novels, they worked fairly well. Okay. We need
I am such a genius.
to get rid of this and this. I feel like
And that concludes today's sermon.
I
we
am
need to play
such
that.
a genius.
Let's see. Here we have a game called The Most Boring Life Ever, which just looks like asset flips. We may have already talked about this. $2.99 English only. I don't see anything that would make me want to play that. The name alone is a problem. I have no interest in playing a game called The Most Boring Life Ever. A newly found Castlevania Resurrection demo is up for auction, according to Techraptor. I think we had already talked about this, but the auction may be a new detail. $7,100. Which, okay. That definitely is something. As far as a demo disc. And when it's something like this, you're in that weird position where either, hopefully, if a collector collects them, they will upload the ROM for other people to make use of. Yeah, I'm still going quiet. Here we have a game called Sentinel Cursed Knight, which, yeah, just looks like an RPG game. Doesn't look good enough. $11.89 English full value. See, a game like this would have to look at least as good as Skyrim did. It does. It'd have to have a lot of enemies on screen, a lot of different environments, indoors, outdoors. Just seeing a character's back in an area is not enough. Okay. Now what? Guess we'll just hit that and save. Here we have a game called Ni na Migota, which looks like a NES style RPG. Early access $5.99. A lot of ESRB rating descriptions here. Yeah, I don't see anything there of interest. See, Techraptor has an article here. Godfall matchmaking is in development, which I'm not sure. Godfall didn't start as a single player game. But maybe it didn't. Well, I don't know how matchmaking would not be in existence though if it was a multiplayer game. Here we have a game on Steam called Lovely Goddess, which is clearly just selling itself on lewd images, but it seems like they may have framed out or censored all the images. So it's 99 cents English only. We haven't seen an adult game maybe in half a week or so, but I'm not quite worried about it yet. Seems like it's fairly consistently still acceptable to sell adult games on Steam, unless it's live action footage like Super Seducer 3, which is, since we're mentioning it, now seemingly not coming out for Switch either. And the developers thinking about selling an NFT, a non-fungible token of the game instead, which means he definitely did not get approval, and he definitely crossed the line somewhere. It's frankly a little shocking that there were even there were even 2 Super Seducers before, and I would have kind of felt like maybe 1 would have gotten through, and then they would have said no to 2. It's not like the games have that much relevancy. Here we have a game called Angry Giant, which seems to be a joke game where you're just running around as a giant smashing things and doing light platforming, fighting some bosses. This is $12.99, whole bunch of language, allegedly full audio in every language. I don't think there's enough here. I don't think there's enough polish there. Let's see, and then we've got a game called Speedy Gun Savage, which looks like a VR Western shooter that doesn't look too bad. Early access $9.99, English full audio. Put this on the follow list. Probably am getting close to the point of eliminating a lot of things that were in early access at like by December of 2020, but also with the pandemic it's kind of unfair to be super surprised if games are getting delayed and unfinished.
Coming at you.
Let's go ahead and hit that, and then that. Tech Raptor has an article here. False Call of Duty Zombies bans are reportedly caused by a bug. So people are getting banned. Which, that's always scary and sucks. A spooky survival sim, Abandoned, is coming to the PS5 this year. I think we've already seen the teaser for Abandoned.
I have lost.
There we go, 2 victories, nice.
Seems to be over.
Now, is there anything special you get for 3 victories, or is it just the next line? I know there's something you special you get if you win all 5 games, but we know that's not going to happen. Game of Sutra has a job listing here for Hinterland Studios in Vancouver, Victoria, British Columbia. This is the developer of The Long Dark, I believe, from the looks of it. Here we have a game on Steam called Silver Soul, which seems to be an assortment of random images. English not supported, 69 cents, Chinese only. Although it says it has English subtitles. Here we have a game called In My Shadow, which is labeled as a puzzle logic, puzzle platformer game. Yeah, it's a shadow-based platforming game from the looks of it. And maybe a fairly simplistic game that only takes place in a couple of rooms. $8.99, bunch of languages. I'll put this on the follow list and see what people have to say. Discard. Evolve. Do this. One of the things I would say about this game in my shadows, this is an odd like big head animation style, and it makes it weird to tell, is this supposed to be a teenager or an adult or what? Like I can't even tell. So yeah, the anatomy there is really weird. Yeah, we have a game called Cinemoji, which seems to just be a word game. Just kind of like a cell phone game that at least they made it widescreen, and when they ported it, 69 cents, English, Portuguese, Brazil. Not terrible, but not special enough that I'd actually play it. Here we have a game on Steam called Space Fuel, which looks like just a red and black palette shoot 'em up game, which I think you need more than 2 colors for a shoot 'em up game. $2.69 English only. Let's go ahead and do that.
No smile today.
And what do we want to do?
Why would I laugh?
Hit that, I guess.
You're not getting away.
You can still eat, right? You need more energy.
Next, we have a game that's all Asian letters, which is tagged as a dating sim. It feels like that's probably what it is like a Chinese visual novel dating sim. I like the white outline art style. It is something different. But yeah, I just don't know if there's a full experience here. And I won't ever know because English is not supported. $1.19, Chinese only. Go on the ball for free. See. Tech Raptor has an article here. Gears 5 Operation 6 Drop 2 arrives next week, which that's quite a description there. I think Gears 5 Operation 6 Drop 2 is not a single player experience. Think this is probably either a horde mode that you maybe can play in single player, or it's straight up just multiplayer. Go ahead and do this. And then do this. See, Gamma Sutra has a job listing here for a senior director, user experience design for Sony PlayStation in San Francisco, California, which I guess does prove that they're still hiring. A stylistic horror adventure game of love and eternity has been announced for PC. Do we have a trailer here? Yeah, I think we saw some of this, and I put it on the fall list. It's a very weird looking trailer that doesn't have the greatest looking graphics, even as a teaser trailer, so that really does open up the opportunity for fairly poor quality game content. Let's toss this. And then this.
Ooh, you're a big fella.
And then this.
Coming at you.
You're gonna regret this. Untitled
may lose
Chapter
here.
now.
We have a game on Steam called Fish Feast, which looks like a modern version of Feeding Frenzy, which I'm not sure that there's really a reason to
This is grave.
play a modern version of Feeding Frenzy or even the old version of Feeding Frenzy. It's English only, and I'm noticing it doesn't have in-app purchases, and yet there is definitely a crystal concept. Can you possibly put a game and not disclose that it has in-app purchases? I would think no. Regardless, yeah, Feeding Frenzy is just not enough of a game to want to play. So let's see what happens here. We redeem our reward. And that gave us a Fortune's Hand card pack ticket and 35 rupees. So when we go to the cards and look at the extras, the question would be, are we going to have more than 24 extras? If we have more than 24, then that means we got to keep all those cards. I don't think that that's the case. I think I needed to have taken the pick 6 concept instead, and we'll, I suppose on Monday, think about doing that instead. Since a new card pack expansion has happened, I should do at least one pick 6 every expansion, even though that may use 6 tickets. We have enough for that to sort of work. Not any more than that, but at least that much. So liquefy extra cards. We have 18 cards, so we didn't keep those cards. Well, that's not surprising after the fact that that was the case. Okay. Mission-wise, I think that maybe moved us up a little bit in the rank as far as playing pick 5. We need 4 ranked wins and 3 ranked wins with Forestcraft, so we know what we should have been doing from the beginning. Come over the rotation, pick fairies, and see if we can win. Meanwhile, we have a game on Steam here called Halloween Memory, which oddly is way too early for Halloween. Doesn't look terrible for a memory game, but it seems fairly generic. $4.79 is way too expensive for a memory game. Here we have a game called Dragon Hunters, which looks like an ugly
Time for me to prove myself.
RPG.
The eternal
Maybe it works off of a layout of a dungeon, but that doesn't really change much in my opinion. $19.99 English, full audio. Next we have Battle Cat versus Treacherous Mouse, which, yeah, doesn't look like anything. $2.09, several languages. Let's go ahead and play that. If I'm gonna get 4 victories, I'm gonna have to be very, very lucky. Tech Raptor has an article here. New Minecraft snapshot brings big changes to ore. Which the changes they're probably talking about is the way the ore is depicted. As of this snapshot, breaking either iron, gold, or copper will give players a new associated ore items similar to coal, redstone, and diamonds functions. What that means is that players who might have enjoyed using iron, gold, or copper ore blocks for building are now going to have to use a pickaxe enchanted with Silk Touch to get those blocks. Okay. That doesn't really change too much, but okay, that's cool. I suppose. Minecraft, if anything, should be extremely applauded for managing to continue to make itself relevant and a fun experience. Who is this? Ginsetsu. I swear sometimes I see characters in Shadowverse and those characters are just not available for sale at all, and that probably is exactly the case, that they were some kind of Japanese exclusive. Gemetsu has the Disgaea RPG launching April 12th in the West for smartphones. Honestly, taking the Disgaea series and telling the same story in an RPG fashion versus the placement tactics game that the Disgaea series main series is might kind of work for me, since I rage quit playing Disgaea because it was so slow. Although arguably moving a incredibly slow style game into another incredibly slow style game still doesn't really work. And the better move really would be for me just give me the Cliff Notes anime version of the story and show me who these characters are and why they matter. And I think that's about as much as my involvement with this guy is ever going to be.
May the forest be at peace. Hey,
Really the only thing that's attractive as far as this guy is the characters and the high anime fashion with the poofy hair and the lewd outfits and scantily clad clothing and the demon and angel motif. Let's see. Don't Nod Entertainment is going to publish a new title from Portaplay, but I've never heard of Portaplay. It's a team of 10 people. So not a lot of people. And weird that Don't Nod would be getting into the publishing business anyways, considering how Don't Nod themselves is not that big of a company. Here we have a game on Steam called Friar's Love, which seems to be kind of like an infinite tower defense type game, flattened down to 2D. $1.34, English and Turkish. Let's see. Can't attack. Or wait. Do this.
let's play.
Do this.
Let's play.
And then go ahead and
Help me, fairy.
eliminate that. And play that.
Let's play.
And then end the turn. Let's see. Here we have a game called Shimha Maforas, which that sounds Middle Eastern as far as a title. And visually it looks like it's all over the place. $6.43, English and Japanese. Interesting. Tagged as a real-time thing. Treat the unique rabbi and the soldiers skillfully to guide them. Also, not so much Middle Eastern as far as it is Jewish, which would be Middle Eastern. 2 would just be ancient Middle Eastern.
Ladies and gentle goats.
Let's see. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Typo, which looks like it is a typing puzzle platformer. And yeah, it doesn't look like that gimmick really would do anything. $11.69. English, French, German, and Spain Spanish. Okay, we can play this, or we can play this, or you can play this. Just go ahead and hit this, and then evolve that.
You're done for.
I'm ready for more. What do we have here?
And hit that, and that.
Yeah, I love this job.
Then
Of course I do.
hit that, and that. Tech Raptor has an article here. Super Mario Bros. Speedrunner has broken the 4.55 barrier, which I guess means probably 4 minutes and 55 seconds to beat Super Mario Bros. 1, not 4 hours and 55 minutes.
Welcome back to the land of the living.
And that sounds slightly interesting, but also not really that interesting. Let's see. A Resident Evil showcase is set for April 15th, according to Gamatsu,
Soon be dyed blue.
which well, we should see some new content from Resident Evil.
Best of luck to
Here we have a game on Steam called Trials of Fire, which is tagged as a card battler. It's already on my follow list for $14.39, English, Chinese, and Russian. So far it's being considered very positively, but it's single player only, so I don't know how far you can go with a game like this. It may have a very obvious beginning and end. Let's hit that.
Already a proper lady, you know. Is that how you
Hit
treat a
that.
lady?
Did I want gold again?
And then hit that.
Everyone needs an afterlife plan.
Here we have a game called Race Total Tune Race, which looks like nothing for $5.99. I'm trying to rush through all of this as quickly as possible so I can go to sleep. Tech Raptor has an article. Vampire clans let you create your own vampire family as kind of an underground dwelling concept. There might be something to that idea, to do a Fallout shelter with vampire clans. Part of the problem with anything comparable to Fallout Shelter is that Fallout Shelter has had a couple of years of updates to make it a proper game, where this may not be a full proper game. But I'm seeing a lot of stuff here that does look interesting. It's almost like Dungeon Keeper, I would say, in its sentimentality and vision, but I would argue that Dungeon Keeper was a top-down control mechanic game. And arguably, maybe that was the mistake, is that Dungeon Keeper in modern times should have been a side perspective design. Could you take the exact elements of Dungeon Keeper and build something like this? And would it play much differently? I don't know if it really would play that much differently. But I don't know if vertical and flat from the side is the right way to do something like that either. That's an interesting thought I'd have to really think about. Gamatsu has Saga Frontier Remastered explained in 8 minutes trailer. which, let's see if this, what this trailer looks like. Yeah, it's a lot of Scarlet Grace RPG stuff. Like a lot of JRPGs. It does seem like it's, the story goes all over the place. Okay. Is there anything we can do? Alright. 3, 6, 9, 12.
I will protect even in death.
This and this.
What an oath!
Blow on, dear wind.
And that and that. So yeah. That leaves enough for them to win. Let's see. Gametsu has an article here. No More Heroes 3 Series Digest trailer. Killing Dollar Trilogy Edition announced for Japan. Killing as in billion, but with a K. And you'd have to go to YouTube to actually look at the video, because it's been age restricted. You know, I might actually do better playing the non-rotation version of fairies, because then those decks would at least be closer to the victory decks I've played in the past. Wonder Boy Asaha in Monster World, Welcome to Monster World trailer is now available. Starting to see more and more trailers. Yeah, Wonder Boy looks interesting as a platforming game. And I want to see that the games play well and control well, and I think that may very well be the case. That is enthusiastic. That makes me enthusiastic for Wonder Boy. Here we have a game on Steam called Poetry, Wine, and Sword, which looks like it's a Chinese management game. Way too much text. $3.99 Chinese only. Here we have a game called Dojorin Steam Edition, which looks like it's a black and white platforming game. Yeah, it just feels like a lot of frustration platforming. $4.24, whole bunch of languages. Let's go ahead and play this. Well, next game is called Tower of Waifus, and I think I probably could get away with showing off everything on the screenshots, but we'd want to be fairly careful here. So it's a match 3 game with sexual content and nudity. Here's a collection of cropped / censored images of the characters. They seem to be fairly varied, but all very busty. So there's one very specific
Mankind's hatred is a curse.
one very specific art style, but oddly, when you look at this, you have a very different type of animation style, and this is just a Honey Pop clone. Let's see, it's selling for $1.39. It's English and Chinese only, and they've already announced a Tower of Waifus too. Next, we have a game called the Cryptologist Room, which feels a lot like The Room if you were going to reboot The Room. And it's not a terrible name. Seems like you have to use cryptology skills though to decrypt things. So there may not be much of a game here. You may just wander around 3 like pre-rendered asset flipped 3D rooms to solve word games. $2.99. I'm gonna put it on the fall list and see if people like it. There's a Cryptologist game I'm playing every now and then on my phone, so wouldn't be completely unsold by that idea. Alright.
You're mean.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Scions of Vega. I assume that's what that word is. C-I-O-N-S. I'm seeing a couple of kids and a guy. I don't know if there's a game here or not, or if this is just asset flipping. Seems like it's a puzzle adventure game with a little bit more 3D going on. $4.49, English, German, and Turkish, which is an interesting combination. I'm gonna put it on the fall list. For what would be an adventure game, $4.49 is fairly cheap anyways.
I put an end to this awful dissonance.
We already talked about this game, but Say No More apparently is getting listed again. This is where a Japanese game where you say no and yell no. $13.49. I feel like this is very similar to the Japanese arcade game where you slammed your fist on the table and then flipped it upward. That it really is hard to relate to this if you're not Japanese. The idea of that you just can't say no and you want to scream it from the shout from the top of your lungs. $13.49 is really expensive though, but I'm gonna put it on the fall list just to keep an eye on it. Alright, so if we do this, and then we do this, and then we hit that. Okay, well then let's evolve that.
You're done for.
Can I haunt you too?
That and that.
I'm coming for you.
Let's keep on moving forward. Here we have a game called Theophil, which this is a top-down hack and slash. Seems like it's almost a platformer puzzler game.
No, literally.
Interesting. It seems to be slightly different from what it looks like it would be. $1.19. I'll put it on the fall list. There might be something here, probably not.
You broke the curse?
Let's see. Tech Raptor has an article. Trials of Fire, a deck building tactical title, is now out of Steam Early Access. That might explain some stuff. Okay. Store 1 defense to your leader whenever somebody enters the field. How many people can I have on the field? So if I did this, Or do this.
Not one for pranks. Thumbs down.
And evolve here.
On now. Maple leaf for me.
Can I
This guy
hold on to you too?
has only like one card left. This isn't really news, but they have a editorial here. Best cherry blossom views in video games. This is Tech Raptor. So they have Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Okami, Animal Crossing New Horizons. All these will be Japanese games almost certainly. Muramasa the Demon Blade, Samurai Showdown 3, 4, and 5. Tingami, Bushido Blade, Stardew Valley. It's pretty much just a list of every game that has cherry blossoms in it. Stardew Valley not being a Japanese game.
You're strong.
Man, they wrecked me. How in the world did I get wrecked when he had literally only one card? And then a shoot 'em up called Perfect Cherry Blossom. And then they're listing some bonuses of characters named Sakura, which you probably wouldn't immediately realize that. This character is from, what is it, Trigger Happy Havoc, Danganronpa, and his name is Sakura, and so that's how I recognize that character. But I could probably guess that this character is named Sakura, and I wouldn't be surprised if this character is named Sakura. This one's a little bit more surprising, and this one looks a little surprising, and this one looks a little surprising. But there isn't any generic visual model for characters named Sakura. Though, like, just looking here, you have different hair colors, different heights, different sizes, some with glasses, some without, different muscle mass, different breast sizes, everything is different. Sakura is just a very common name used at least in anime style games. I don't know how many actual kids in Japan are named Sakura. Girls, I would assume. Let's try this. Let's try just an unlimited force craft victory, hopefully. Let's see. Tech Raptor has Borderlands 3 Director's Cut introduces a new boss and themed loot, which good. It should. One day I'll get around to playing Borderlands 3, and I expect it to be good. A data mined Fallout 76 expedition shows Washington, D.C., which, okay. But does that mean it's actually ever going to happen, or would it make more sense for Washington, D.C. just to be the new setting of the next Fallout game? And I don't think you have to really do anything too new to make a Fallout 5. Just have good levels, good missions, and a better story than Fallout 4. Get away from the whole base building gimmick, because that wasn't that good. Here's Tech Raptor talking about Super Seducer and Nintendo Switch release has been cancelled.
Time for me to prove myself.
You must die.
So yeah, Nintendo just tells them, no, we're not going to let your game on the Switch because of the explicit content. No big surprise there, really. Gematsu has the PC Gaming Show 2021 and Future Games Show set for June 13th. What's weird is it seems like both shows are happening at the exact same day. So it seems like maybe what they're doing is splitting up two presentations, one for current games and one for games coming out in the future, which might be an interesting way to do things. Super Meat Boy Forever for the PS4 and Xbox One launches April 16th. Okay. Feel like the game is taking its sweet time. Tech Raptor has an article here. Streets of Rage 4 Mr. X Nightmare DLC announced. And this does not look like Streets of Rage 4 fighting, so this is very weird looking. Well, actually, this is Streets of Rage, isn't it? It is the 2D beat 'em up game. I was thinking of King of Fighters. Streets of Rage, King of Fighters, close enough. The weirdness here is last time I looked, Streets of Rage 4 wasn't particularly well reviewed, but then it also felt like it was exactly what fans of Streets of Rage 1, 2, and 3 would like, which is probably an argument to say that fans of the Streets of Rage series are probably not casual gamers, and they're not looking for just a casual beat 'em up game. Gematsu has an article here reporting from Bloomberg that the Last of Us remake for PS5 is in development at Naughty Dog. That seems kind of ridiculous that you would potentially remake / remaster a game that's not that old. It was 2013. I guess 8 years is a long enough time to argue for a remaster. Probably not a remake, particularly since there's only 2 games in the series anyways. Wouldn't it make a lot more sense to either reboot or continue? And I think you have to continue with the 3rd game even if you do plan to reboot, because that's just so normalized as a way of playing. Speaking of a way of playing, here we have a game called Wild Shape, which seems to be a map editor or an asset flip of a map editor to create board games. This really does feel like this is just trickery and asset flipping, though. Because they're showing you all these top level designs, but at the beginning here they show you these dungeons and these enemies and dice being rolled, and then somebody's hand moving characters on a board. See, there's just something very different from making a field versus a dungeon. Early access 1999. I seriously doubt that that's anything that would actually work the way it says. Speaking of Last of Us, there's a report that says Sony's relentless pursuit of blockbusters is stifling its developers, which probably is somewhat the case because yeah, we haven't seen any PlayStation 5 exclusives of mediocre or middle tier B games, AA games instead of AAA games, or single A games instead of AAA games. Alright, well, let's hit this, and then this, and then this. And attack. Open Critic has this article. Deathloop has been delayed. We've probably talked about this multiple times. What's, I think, kind of funny though is Deathloop was a PlayStation exclusive that is now owned by Microsoft because it's coming out in September for PlayStation 5 and PC as a timed exclusive. But yeah, Arcane Studios, I believe, is making Deathloop, and they were bought up by Microsoft, so it would be fairly easy for Microsoft to look at Sony's quarterly reports and say, hey, let's delay this game and cut off our nose to spite our face effectively and hurt maybe PlayStation and Sony a lot more than it would hurt Microsoft, because Microsoft probably doesn't need another game 6 months after a PlayStation 5 exclusive happens. The real nasty thing to do would be to cancel Deathloop completely and try and nullify the contract, and then take a lot of the work and design that was used on Deathloop to make a completely different game that really isn't that different. Here we have a game on Steam called Super Villy, which looks like it is just a joke game. $4.24, English only. This guy's not moving particularly fast. Alright, well,
Help me, fairies.
this one,
Hey, that hurts.
hit that one,
Hey, let's play.
and
You
go
wouldn't.
with that.
You wouldn't. A UK mobile studio called Triple Dot has netted $78 million with an eye on acquisitions, according to Gamma Sutra.
Let's speed things up.
I think we're getting close to the end, but not that close. A story-driven roguelike game called Silly Polly Beast has been announced for
Princess Prim.
PC. Let's see what this looks like. This looks like hyper-realistic graphics, and then you've got a purple-haired girl wandering around. Seems like it's probably an adventure game, unless this is a trailer to a top-down twin-stick shooter. I don't know what they mean by poly, though, because poly doesn't really mean anything. Yeah, here's a poly wolf. Poly is like a British phrase, I think, for sickly. Yeah, and it does turn into a top-down twin-stick shooter. Wow. By the looks of it. And it looks like it is probably a horror game of some sort, psychological horror. Yeah, the only thing poly otherwise would be polyamorous and like multiple romantic partners, and that wouldn't quite make sense. Let's see. We hit this, and that's dead. And then if we do this, we can do that.
Hey, let's play.
Go ahead and evolve.
You're done for. So sparkly. Yeah. You
Take out
wouldn't.
6 damage. Next we have a game on Steam here called Dark Facets, which looks like nothing. $17.99 English and Russian. That's ridiculously expensive. Here we have a game called Hopeless Dregs, just tagged as an RPG game.
It won't be long now.
Doesn't look visually polished enough to interest me. Early access $8.49 English only. Next we have a game on Steam here called Descending 1 House of Nightmares, which
Oh, come on.
yep, just looks like it's probably a horror asset flip game. A little puzzle game, $7.99 in VR. I'll put it on the fall list, but wouldn't be surprised if there really isn't anything to it. The PlayStation boss has joined Disability: N campaign to drive disability inclusion, which is great and all, I suppose, but it is also very late to the party as far as comparison to Xbox having that partnership with a different developer to make the accessibility controller, which that accessibility controller really didn't go anywhere, but it still got them a lot of press and did them very well. Okay, well, what do we want to evolve? Something bigger or something smaller? I think you want to evolve something smaller. That, and that, and that.
An exemplary battle.
Wow, an actual victory. So maybe for the past couple of weeks had I just been playing the the non-rotation unlimited version of the game, I would have succeeded a lot better. And see, now it's just a matter of could I possibly get a few more victories? And see, I'm gonna fall asleep here in an hour at most, so I doubt I'm gonna play any extra off screen. And even most of the time when I do say I'm gonna play off screen, I don't really do it. Open Critic has this article: Days Gone 2 pitch was rejected by Sony in 2019. Not super surprising there, because Days Gone 1 didn't really knock anybody's socks off. But there might have been a possibility of fixing that kind of game and improving it in a sequel. Here we have a game on Steam that's all in Russian. It's tagged as a walking simulator. $1.39 Russian only. I have to say, if you are listening to my videos and you find me particularly dull during particularly the Shadowverse streams, I'm with you. I totally agree. Listening to my own voice when I'm half asleep like this, it's like, yeah, I feel tired and dull and boring. It's not certainly energetic by any means. And I'd highly suggest watching my streams at 2x speed. I'd suggest doing that if you can for all YouTube content. It puts some speed into everybody's candor. But yeah, I'm listening myself talk on these headphones right now, and I'm like, yeah, even I don't like what I'm how tired I sound. Here we have a game on Steam called Grim Tales: The Final Suspect Collector's Edition, which this is from Big Fish Games as a publisher, hidden object game. Seems to me like the idea is that a kid killed a parent from the looks at the beginning of this trailer. Yeah. That daughter in the picture seemingly stabbed the parent. Yep. And then frame somebody else. $12.59 English only. Problem with these are that they are too expensive. Otherwise, some of these games do look interesting. Although in all fairness, they probably put a lot of effort to making them look interesting and less effort into actually making them good games. If I was to guess. Just gonna go ahead and put everything on the field. Here we have a game on Steam called Tori 3D, which looks like a 3D platformer, but it doesn't look visually polished enough to make me think that it's much of a game. 99 cents, English only. Not a bad price for pretty much what I was expecting the quality to be. There you go, I can see the beginning of the end now. Here we have a game on Steam called To Save Humanity from Virus, which that's not English. And this is low polygon. $5.59. No to that. Here we have Legend of Heroes Trails of Cold Steel 4 on Steam. Lots of trailers for this. Let's see. Launch week only deluxe edition is $79.96. That is not going to trick me into buying it though. English full audio, Japanese full audio. The Legends of Cold Steel series still does have that weirdness to it where there's like 8 games, I believe, before this. And this is the final chapter of the Trails of Cold Steel saga. I'll put this on the fall list, but yeah, a hard sell, certainly. Right, if I play this, I can't do anything. If I do this, I can't do anything, so I think our best bet is to do this. Go ahead and evolve there too. And attack. That, and that. Here we have a game called Together B&B, which seems a lot like the game House Party, but really is, I think, just an asset flip, where they've got several different characters, female characters, that are going to be living together in this bed and breakfast, and says you'll gradually cultivate feelings and trust with the female tenants and develop a deeper and intimate romantic relationships with them. What I'm not seeing here is any confirmation that there's actually an adult content, any adult content at all. It's $17.99 English full audio, but then Chinese too, and then negative reviews. There's FPS drops, can't skip repeatable conversations, quest objective descriptions are unclear, voice acting is awkward. Terrible optimization, no sex at time, no guide for quest, and you need 2 hands to play the game. There you go. And see, that's kind of the problem with a lot of Chinese games, is that they're going to just be so censored, and so they're basically reverting to trickery, for lack of a better term, to try and get you to think that they're selling one thing when they really aren't. Alright, we still would need 3, then 4, then 5 victories. 5, 6, and 7 victories. That is just asking a lot. But at least I'm getting victories all of a sudden. Here we have a game on Steam called Run for Cover. It seems like it's an XCOM clone, but way worse looking. Turn-based strategy placement game. $8.99 English and German. Next we have a game called Exorcised, which looks like it's a tower defense game with like Shinto priest type characters exorcising demons for $4.99. This will be our last game. And frankly, I might actually cancel this game halfway through. Gamma Sutra has an article here. Death Stranding earned $27 million on PC in only 5 months. So Death Stranding did fairly well. But honestly, I could not imagine any reason why I would want to play Death Stranding at this point. Like, it doesn't make sense. I would want to play maybe the Cliff Notes version of a game like that and an abridged version. But I definitely wouldn't want to do the grinding. That's kind of the problem with Metal Gear as a series also, is that I'd probably prefer to watch someone else play it than actually play it myself. Gamma Sutra has an article. Twitch has outlined a plan to take action against off-platform misconduct, which, yeah, in one way, that's probably a good idea. In another way, that feels like major overreach. Like freedom of speech and freedom of expression is just going to get eaten away more and more if the 5 to 10 major corporations that run an average person's life can completely screw over somebody who does something in possibly the privacy of their own home, in a smaller group meeting, in their churches and in their coffee circles. Take your pick. Like, and honestly, for Twitch to outline that idea just highlights how stupid Twitch is as far as running their business, because their first and foremost step would be to moderate the activity that happens on Twitch. There's plenty of body painters and cleavage streamers on Twitch all the time. So stop that from happening first and foremost, and then come back, and once you come with clean hands, as it were, and say we've done everything that is reasonably expected of us to clean up Twitch as a platform, thus we have this extra opportunity to now start moderating based on outside activity. If anything, it probably is in part that they've added this rule to get away from lawsuits from people like Dr. Disrespect, who was mostly kicked off for activity he did during E3, not on stream. And I'm sure there's several other people that they would like to just kick off the platform.
Dreams are what kept me alive.
Ow! Ow!
Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. The Time Splitters 2 port has finally been unlocked in Homefront to Revolution. Apparently there is a port inside the game, and then you needed a code, and the person who programmed the code forgot the code, and it never got out. It is a fully playable 4K port of Time Splitters 2 hidden in the arcade machine in Homefront to Revolution. Homefront to Revolution, not a particularly great game. It would make a lot more sense to put the just re-release Time Splitters 1 and 2 if you'd already ported it. And so there's a combination of codes that you'd have to type in that seem fairly long on the controller to enable it. What I'd really like to see is some footage of it, though. Let's see. But yeah, I'm not gonna bother to try and see that footage.
I must restrain myself.
It definitely feels like this is a case where they are actively trying to convince somebody to release Time Splitters again, Time Splitters 2 again. But that would be a weird series to re-release. Not crazy though. It would make a lot of sense to re-release it. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Sonic Colors Remastered has been listed in the portfolio of German voiceover studios. So, and then this has been updated. Apparently it's coming out for the PS4, Xbox One, and Switch in 2021. Okay. I don't think Sonic Colors is particularly one of the greatest Sonic games, but I wouldn't really know. Here we have a game called Diorama Tower Defense Tiny Kingdom Prologue. So it's a demo for a game that doesn't need a demo, that's also a tower defense game. It's free in English only. Here we have a game called Alveoli. I think is what that is. Minimalistic puzzle. 99 cents. Bunch of languages. Put down the following list. I feel like alveoli, though, means something. I think it's like a brine or a shrimp or something. So we got a fish. Maybe a part of the body. I'm not sure. Maybe a part of the veins. I feel like I've heard that word though. Here we have a game called Carnal on Steam, which just is a low polygon shooter for 99 cents, English only. Yeah, we have a game called Puzzle and Chess, which seems to be a collection of chess puzzles. 79 cents, English, Spain, Spanish, Portuguese, and Brazil. Let's see. Here we have a game called Girls in Glasses, which are anime girls in glasses with different hairstyles. So, if you've got that fetish, this is, I guess, the game for you. That's a dating simulation game. $7.99, Japanese full audio in English. I'm not sure that there's any nudity or anything in it, so might be fairly boring a game. It's kind of a generic title and a generic idea. It's from Sekai Project, which, as a publisher, I believe they are the ones that make... Do they make the Sakura series? If they do, they haven't made one in a while. Yeah. I wouldn't be surprised if at some point I decide to take a lot of the Sekai Project games off the fall list or off the wish list. If I start to slightly back away from thinking about covering visual novels so much, I could see just getting rid of the ones that are titillation only and not likely to have any real interesting stories if it's just a romance dating simulator. Here we have a game called Cobots, which looks like robots cooperating together to get little floating chips, avoiding lasers. $8.49, single player. Interesting. How do you control? Manipulate time and cooperate with yourself. Ah, that's how it works. I'll put that on the follow list. It may not be polished enough. Let's see. TechCraft has an article. here, the Epic Games Store is expected to be profitable by 2023, which is to say, it isn't turning a profit at the moment. This came out because of their lawsuit with Apple. Video game wise, I'm not sure how much this matters, but the Supreme Court did affirm the fair use defense of using APIs against Google and Oracle. So Google won that lawsuit, took it all the way to the Supreme Court. That being said, the Supreme Court also kind of split the baby, as it often does, and said APIs are protected under copyright, which is insane, but that's copyright law in general. So someone can copyright an API, but at least with this precedent-setting case, you can still use the API, the Advanced Programmable Interfaces, and it would be fair use. If anything, this multi-year running fair use case for Google, I would like Google to learn a lesson about just how terrible trying to defend yourself with fair use is, and how terrible copyright trolls can be, and rethink how they treat content creators on YouTube at that point. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Yahoo Answers has been immortalized in Typing of the Dead Overkill. Apparently Yahoo Answers is being shut down on May 2021, and somebody has made a mod to preserve some of these answers, and putting them in Typing of the Dead, which Typing of the Dead has several different like phrases that you can put in there, or mods to change the phrases. Let's see, Gamma Citra has this article, Ubisoft has hired the ex-Uber HR director as a new chief people officer. That's a weird phrase, but I guess that means that she will be at the board with a C-level administrator, where an HR director may not be considered that high. Now, there is a problem though, that Uber's HR director is probably garbage, if that this is the person or one of the people that pushed very hard to treat Uber employees as contractors and not pay them as employees and deny them any benefits or anything. And so when you see Ubisoft, which has been accused of treating employees like garbage, hiring somebody else who very likely has worked for a company, at the very least, that has been accused of treating people like garbage, that does not say anything great as far as the future of for employees in Ubisoft. Also, it's a French company, so there had already been a lot of labor disputes. Second Dinner put out a post. Representation is not just important but very necessary. All throughout April, we'll continue to celebrate Diversity Month with our thoughts and experiences from their team. Then they have two diverse people putting out posts. The idea that this is Diversity Month, that April is Diversity Month, is new to me, but it almost makes more sense to have a single month that celebrates diversity in general, instead of having a Black American Month or Women's Month or something like that. I imagine this is really going to be more an attempt for somebody to double dip or triple dip. But in general, the idea of celebrating diversity is much more egalitarian than saying we need to hire more Asians, or we need to hire more women, or we need to hire more African Americans, because you're excluding whole other swaths of groups of people if you just pick out one. group that you think needs to be hired, and then you always get into the argument of how much diversity of thought actually exists amongst these employees, or is it just diversity of race or skin color or gender? Because if they all are flaming SJWs that toe the same line and are a good cultural fit, which is always code word for they think exactly the same and fall into groupthink, then they're less likely to be challenged and less likely to do anything great. Moving on, TechCraft has an article. A Mighty Doom mobile game is quietly being tested. I suppose this is in the Doom universe, sorta. Like, it looks like a mobile game using the Doom monsters. It looks kind of like an Infinite Runner. Yeah. If they don't promote this too much, quietly putting out this game as an advertisement for other Doom games would be fine. But you have to be fairly careful, because if you push it too much, people are gonna be upset that you're not working on a third Doom in the Doom reboot series, which is what I think more people would be interested in. Gamasutra has Wargaming opening a Lithuania studio to bolster its distributed development model, which really just means they opened a new studio. Here we have a game on Steam called Safari Zone, which is tagged as a collectathon. Creature collection gone with some roguelike elements. Use your tools to improve your cataloging skills each visit. $4.49, English full audio. I'll put this on the follow list, but some of this looks a little empty. I wouldn't be surprised if there isn't a full game here. I need to at some point also jump into the single player and play the main story all the way through, which that could certainly take a while to do also. Gamasutra has an article here. Outriders devs offer an inside look at the launch server issues and the eventual fix. This might be interesting if you want to be a developer or just are interested in programming. Here we have a game called the Lost Eidolons, which seems to be a grid-based fantasy game. It's got some interesting looking graphics, but the gameplay itself looks incredibly boring. It's not out yet. It's English and Korean. I haven't seen a lot of Korean games lately either. Let's see. Borderlands had this post 21 hours ago. We're investigating a report issued affecting Borderlands 3 Season Pass 2 owners on Epic that is preventing them from unlocking the Disciples of the Vault cosmetic packs. We'll update this thread when we have updates. Then they put out gold keys, codes, shift codes. Still. TechRaptor has an article here, not super video game related, but Wizards of the Coast surveying a new Magic the Gathering Secret Lay subscription service, which would be incredibly expensive, like $500 every quarter or more. It would be my guess, and I don't think people would be happy around that. People in general not happy around the idea of secret layers as a concept anyways. Next we have a game on Steam called Scars of Summer, which is one of those RPG games that almost certainly has an adult patch somewhere. $17.99 English, Japanese, and Chinese. Let's see. As far as adult content in the version on Steam, there's nothing. And then finally we have a game on Steam called Traffic City, which looks like nothing. I guess one of the nice things about being half asleep when you're streaming though is that I can't get my passion up enough that I would potentially go on a rant about how awful a game is, for better or worse, because that also can be very annoying. Apparently Shantae, the original Shantae for Switch, launches April 22nd. Not the ultimate version of it. That seems weird. Now I'm just going down my Twitter feed to see if there was any new news on this Saturday. Which odds are low that there's going to be too much as far as new news. We've been streaming for 2 hours and 40 minutes. So, yeah. I bet there's basically nothing. Just checking each Twitter feed to be certain. Now over the weekend I need to schedule videos, but I probably won't get around to it, so I'll just probably play more pinball. Let's see, yeah. Gematsu has Shantae for the Switch launching April 22nd. It includes both the Game Boy Color and the Game Boy Advance modes, which honestly I feel like that game should also be ported to PC if you're porting it to the Switch anyways. It's going to be old school, certainly, but at least then there's the newer Shantae games to act as a connective tissue to it. And a lot of the content and elements of Shantae are pretty much redone anyways, but not exactly redone. They were remade and probably improved slightly. There is a problem with Shantae games though, that they are too difficult, so I would like at some point them to become easier. Here we have a game called Cosmic Magus, which is just a barf of colors on the screen for $3.99. And then that would leave me with just checking to see if there's a new Humble Bundle, which I think the answer probably is no to that. Okay. So then that's going to be it for the stream. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want a friend to follow me on any social media sites, there's a bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wish list. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.